So the Leafs, for those of you who do not know, don't have any cap space. They've got like 100K in room. They need the needs that have been kind of thrown around is maybe some defensive depth on the left side, a top six winger to play with Nylander and Tavares, or third line center. Now, Alex and Daniel, you guys kind of came together to kind of mold a third line center deal, if you want to mention that now.
Yes. So the third line center we have selected. We called Kevin Adams and we said, we want Eric Stahl, 50% retained. Here's what you can have. Pierre Engvall and a third round pick in 2022. That has a condition. It turns into a second round pick if the Toronto Maple Leafs make the Stanley Cup final.
Mm-hmm. Which is a safe bet looking at where they are.
Hopefully, yes.
Yeah.
And this way they can hold on to Alex Kerfoot, which everyone is throwing around, to make salary. In fact, the trades I have here, I have Kerfoot going in every single one of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Every single one.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Now, Alex, you also looked at the potential left. Yes, you have a potential defenseman for the Leafs. Maybe people are looking at Ekholm, but you've gone maybe a more realistic route and looked at a real depth defenseman who is more famous. I'm kidding. His sister is much more famous than him.
I tried going the Mark Stahl route because I saw a lot of people talking about that, but that was just way too hard money wise. So I went with Jamie Alexiak, 50% retained. Who's the GM in Dallas? Jim Nill?
Jim Nill, yeah.
I called Jim Nill. I said, I want Jamie Alexiak, 50% retained. This is what you can have. Alex Galchenyuk in a fourth. And then I hung up the phone.
I kind of like how we have to start this off by saying, I called this GM and said, this is what we're doing here.
Yeah, I just thought that was a cool thing.
I don't know if I was listening to Alex or Brian Burke there.
Yes. And then both of you as well looked at a top six winger.
Mm-hmm.
What was the one you guys came to?
Well, you want to do both of them? Because I think they're two different types of players.
Yeah. You both got ones. Let's start with Daniels.
All right. So I think in terms of skill, he's amazing. No bias. And also the money just makes so much sense. He's making less than $4 million, and he has another season after this, and it's Rickard Rakell. Mm-hmm. And I think he can play the wing, if there's, God forbid, another injury or something. He's played center before, but he's going to cost the Leafs quite a bit. So to make the money work, maybe the Ducks have to retain something, but you're going to get Pierre Engvall, you're going to get Rodion Amirov, mm-hmm. a first round pick and a second round pick for Rakell, who is going to help you almost immediately. He was on a 12-point streak prior to two games ago, but he's proven it before. He's been an all-star. He scored 30 goals, and I think he fits perfectly with what the Leafs are trying to do, and on the cheap. And the extra year of control, I think that it's going to bode so well for them.
And that's it. That's the important part.
Daniel, you missed something.
What did I miss? Oh, yes.
Which general manager did you call?
I called Bob Murray. I'm like, this is what you need to do for your team. You don't need, I gave you Rodion Amirov, but I know you want a guy for some reason who is entering his late 20s. So I'll give you Pierre Engvall. He's going to see Pierre Engvall, and he's going to be like, yeah, that's the centerpiece of the deal. So got him there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Should I go?
Yes.
So, I called David Poyle last night. I said, David, because we're on a first name basis. I said 50% retained, Philip Forsberg. That's it. I said, here's what I'll give you. First round pick this year. I'll give you a conditional second round pick next year. If we make the cup final, have another first. I give you Alex Kerfoot, Nick Robertson. Mm-hmm. That's it. Take it or leave it.
Yes. Leafs arguably their best forward prospect. A potential two first. I like it. I like that a lot. Okay. So I had, by the way, like the others, an individual trade. Mattias Ekholm, I had one. I had Eric Stahl. I had Granlund. But then I thought, man, why be boring? And the lads don't know about this trade. I call it the all of them 2-year window trade. Because listen, the Leafs have made a mistake with the likes of, why can't I remember his name at this very, very second? He went to Carolina this year. A lot
Jake
of
Gardner.
skill. Had some personal issues and had to step away from the Marlies. Jeremy Bracken.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
And we had the issue of Janssen of not selling high. They got lucky with Kapanen because the Pittsburgh Penguins are dumb. Even though some people
Yeah.
think they could have got more, and that's clearly false.
Stop it.
Anyway, the Leafs have longer than just a 2-year window. Realistically, with the talent they have, we saw this in Pittsburgh. They won in 2009. They had to retool a bit, but back and they won. Came in 2017, and now they won back-to-back cups. You have a longer window, and they have a good relationship with the likes of Matthews. He's probably re-signing there. Okay, you can work on this. So their big go for it window is this year, and it seems like Canadian teams want to try and have this division again next year because COVID is still a thing here. So this are the best 2 years for the Leafs to go for it. So I called up David Poile and I called up Pierre Dorian. I said, Pierre, Nashville are going to give you a second next year, and I'm going to give you a second next year, and you're going to give me the Derek Stepan contract that I can use for LTIR. Then I went to Poile and I said, listen here, dude. You're going to give me at 50% retained. Hold on a minute. I can't read my writing. I think you're going to give me Calle Jarnkrok retained at half for $1 million. He hasn't had the best year, but if you look at his best years in Nashville when they were a competent team, that is a good third-line center who could also play the wing. There's value there.
Okay.
At $3 million, you're going to give me Philip Forsberg, and retained also at half at 1.875, you're going to give me Matthias Ekholm too. All of which of those players have this and next year left on their contracts.
Correct.
So these are a potential lines. Matthews, Marner, Hyman, Forsberg, Tavares, Nylander, Mikheyev, Engvall, Jarnkrok, Boyd, Spezza, VC. You can work on that. Whatever.
So, wait, there's no Joe Thornton.
No, he's gone.
Oh, he's gone.
Listen, this is based off what I saw on Daily Faceoff.
Is this like the TSN article that they just put out that said, does Joe Thornton fit in this lineup?
No, man, if we have to give him up, we give him up. Whatever.
Okay, yeah.
Riley Brody, Hall Muzzin, Ekholm, Bogosian. You're going to notice there are some guys missing. Anderson Campbell. And I told David Poile, this is what you're going to get from me. 2 firsts.
This year and next year?
Yes.
Okay.
Alex Kerfoot,
Yeah.
Nick Robertson, and one of Liljegren and Sandin, preferably Liljegren. The money all works here. It's a 2 window, and you're probably wondering, Adam, even if the math is done properly, the Nashville Predator players combined, it's just under $6 million. Even with Kerfoot, Adam, there's about a $1.5 million overage there. That's Derek Stepan. And even with that room, there would still be around 3/3.5 million for another move if they wanted to. Now, you're probably wondering, Adam, where does that additional 1.5 come from in the summer when Stefan's contract expires? To which I tell you, don't worry about it, because Joe Thornton is gone.
Yeah.
I've just come up with that on the fly.
Okay, here's where I'm struggling.
Yes.
Weirdly enough, I don't know. I think you have to give Robertson and Sandin.
Sure.
I don't think Liljegren is enough because
Sure, I'll edit it.
yeah, like I think that's what it is. I don't even know if that's enough for all 3 players, which is weird. Like you think I'd want the Leafs to screw Nashville, but like I don't know. Like if I'm David Poile, why do I take that deal? Like I could probably get more individually for each player if I wanted to.
Easy.
Okay.
Here's why.
Okay.
Okay. Because this league has a problem.
Okay.
It is too boring.
Correct.
This way, we don't know the value of a first. We don't know the value of a second. We don't know how many teams can actually take on Caspers, but do you know what? One team that we are assured can make trades in this buyer's market, it's the Leafs.
The Leafs.
Now, why would you want Kerfoot? He's got some term, and for the love of God, he can play center.
Yeah.
Like, they just need some semblance of center. Nick Robertson is an exciting young forward prospect.
Yeah.
Which, my God, do they need?
Yes.
The draft picks. Listen, they're late picks, but Jesus, you're getting picks there. All right? It's guaranteed. So if we break it down, really. And don't forget, the Leafs are also giving up a second here to help it work out with Ottawa. By the way, whether Ottawa was an incentive here, they get 2 seconds out of it.
Maybe they can spend it on another Matt Murray.
Yes.
Oh no.
This way, they make up some of the room that they've lost in the original Stephon deal. I thought I was actually giving up too much in this deal. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm kind of stalling to come up with something in my mind. Listen, we don't know what the actual, like, how many teams are actually going to buy because there's just no money. At least with the Leafs, it's a guarantee thing that you know they can handle this. And listen, if they can truly, and if the word is true that this is their time for it to go for it, there is real possibility that they can make that big move, right? It's just, and if you're Nashville, you can't just dilly-dally about maybe moving, maybe doing this, maybe this. This is a move that can also commit to them really rebuilding. And a lot of people may say, okay, what about Johansson and Fink? Because for those 2 years, those are all 3 of their retained salaries. No one's taking those contracts right now, regardless. Not going to happen. Without it having to be a Lucic type situation where you send another bad contract. Maybe Skinner, but neither of those teams want to retain.
Oh my gosh.
So again, let me preface this. I think all our other trades that we're going to look at for the rest of the show are somewhat realistic.
Yeah.
This was purely let's go nuts here because and this isn't just me saying throw in scraps to get these players. No. Like these are some of the least best prospects.
Yeah.
And the money works, dang it. The money works. I used a calculator and everything.
Adam, was this your this is where the fun begins moment?
Pretty much. The thing is I don't know what Yarncrook is, what's his value. That's where I get a little confused.
He's been on Nashville for so long. I forgot he was drafted by Detroit.
Oh,
I didn't even know he was drafted by Detroit. Listen, I'm not going to lie to you. I tried to get all 3 of these players, and I looked at third-line centers in Nashville, and I realized they don't have one. So Yarncrook was the closest I could go. All right. Shall we go and move on then?
Sure.
So we'll go to the Winnipeg Jets. Daniel, we've given you the task. They need a top 4 defenseman ideally to play with Josh Morrissey. Who do you have?
So I went with Matthias Ekholm going there. I know he's a left-hand shot.
Who did you call?
I called Kevy. You know, we have our nicknames since childhood. That I said, listen, you know, this is your core. Don't tinker with the forwards again, except for cap situations. You know what you have in the top 6. Now let's fix that back end. Calls David.
Yep.
And he gets Matthias Ekholm, but not for very cheap because he knows that Winnipeg really needs it. So he gets an Adam Lowry. He gets a first-round pick.
Yep.
A second-round pick. And either a Christian Vesalainen or a Ville Heinola. His choice.
Listen, Matthias Ekholm, you talk about a minute muncher. Talk about an underappreciated defenseman. On a great contract. I think that's a very reasonable deal. And if I'm Winnipeg, I'm saying please take Vesalainen and let us keep Nola. But they maybe don't want to do it, as you mentioned to me before the show. But you know who could probably be an option too? Maybe Logan Stanley. Maybe not, because they'd like to keep him. But I like that deal a lot, Daniel. I really, really do like it. So who is third? Edmonton, right?
This was like the most difficult one.
So the problem with the Oilers is they have no cap, and everything has to be in and out, and they need a goalie, and they need a top 6 winger. And they basically have no assets, except for like Broberg. And you don't want them getting rid of their picks because they need to goddamn draft some players. Alex, who are you looking here for their top 6 winger?
I have Jake Vertanen for sorry, I forgot. Before I made this trade, I called up Jim Benning. We're
Okay.
good friends. I call him Jimbo or Jimothy. I don't know. Whatever I feel like. And I said, I know you want to give up Jake Vertanen. He's like, yeah, I do. I don't know why, but I said, here, I'll give you Alex Chason. He'll expire at the end of the year. I'll give you a conditional 3rd round pick, and depending on playoff success, might go up. It might just be a 3rd.
Mhm.
And I hung up the phone.
Listen, a lot of people need to realize is Vertanen's not going to get a lot.
But he's a
Because
scoring winger.
He's just there's no value there. They're trying to trade him
For like the 4th time.
Like, I at one point had him going to Boston for like a 4th, like
No.
in like Seneshin. There isn't much there. All right, there's just not enough for him. Daniel again, the trade guru. Who did you call for a goalie?
I called Billy back in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, because I just assume he lives there. He doesn't live in the downtown core. But I told him, you have a lot of goalies. You know, you don't want to upset Bob with the amount of games you're giving to the other guy. You have another person in university. Actually, 2 guys in university.
You called Bill Zito, by the way. Like,
Yes, both from the sorry, just we're just good friends already that like first name basis. Calls me Danny. Anyways, I said, Chris Drieger is gonna want to get more money. He's gonna want to play more, and I don't think you're gonna be able to give it to him. But I'll give you an interesting prospect for him, and this is me, Ken Holland, trading Raphael Lavoie and a 2nd round pick in 2022 for Chris Drieger because he is cheap, he is young, and he's playing so well that the Oilers need that because they don't have anyone else. Well, no offense, Stuart Skinner, but they don't have anyone else who could really be a starter in the next year or 2.
mhm. Now, why would they trade Drieger again? As you're saying, they have Spencer Knight. Remember Devin Levi?
Yeah.
We all do, of course.
Oh, and Samuel Montibo is still there too.
And like TSN having him on the trade board is again enough. I think they'd be nuts to do it, but Drieger is a good option, a very good option for the Oilers. Then we go to Montreal here, and what are they needing? Maybe another left defenseman, especially now that Ben Sherrod is hurt. We don't know the extent of it, but apparently if it needs surgery, he's gone 4 to 6 months. And all of a sudden, Montreal lose a defenseman on their top pairing who eats a lot of minutes. So first, Daniel, you covered a lot of these trades. I'm realizing now. Do you want to talk about who you have Montreal getting as a depth defenseman?
You go first.
Center, sorry.
Center. Oh, okay, yeah, because I was like,
Yeah.
because I'm like, did I? No, I did not. I was not the defensive guy. Yes, for me, it's Mikael Grunland. I think it just fits so well. He needs, like, I said this already when he was a free agent. He needs a change of scenery, and for some reason, he still doubled down and went back to Nashville. I think maybe because of the cap hit they gave him, but he's not too expensive. He's just hasn't looked like the player we know he is with the Predators. So I think he goes to Montreal, and they don't get very much for him. They get like conditional 3rd. That could maybe go higher. I don't know, but it's just something that Nashville needs to do because honestly, they have to get some form of compensation because again, they gave up Kevin Fiala for this. They thought Grunland was going to become, that 60-point, Selke type of guy. It hasn't worked out, but I think in Montreal, he gets a lesser role, but he really helps that bottom 6 kind of going forward. And again, another guy could put on the penalty kill.
Exactly. I like Granlund a lot. Beside the fact, Minnesota Wild guy, top 13 in Selke voting at one time in his career. Love it. Love to see it. All right, so Montreal defenseman, you go big or you go home. Bergevin kind of needs to make the playoffs. Otherwise, he's probably gone. And I would say that of any team that is probably going to be a buyer, Montreal might have the best draft capital, I think you'd say. So for Matthias Ekholm, reunite him with Shea Weber. How nice would that be? They are going to give up all this year a first. It doesn't matter which second. It doesn't matter which third. They can have their pick if they really want to. Defensemen, they can have one of two. I don't mind. Victor Mete, a young puck-moving left-handed guy, or they could have Cale Fleury, a more old-fashioned, rough and tough, can lay out the body right-handed guy. And they want a center prospect, a guy who has a bit of offensive flair to him with a second-line ceiling. I need to add that, ceiling. So not a sure thing, but he's got the offensive tools. That's a guy they just signed in the summer, 20-year-old Cam Hellis. Great guy. Love him. Playmaking ability, you love to see it. Then if we look at the Calgary Flames, Alex, they need a top 6 winger, are the Flames.
Yes, they do. And again, I had to make a call to a friend called David Poyle in Nashville. Davey or whatever. I don't know. Call him something. And, I said, Sam Bennett wants out. I don't want to deal with Darren Ferris anymore. I've had enough of his shenanigans. So I say, here, you can have Sam Bennett. He'll be an RFA at the end of the year. You can also have Oliver Shillington, decent defenseman. We're not really using him. And 4th round pick in 2022.
Mm-hmm.
And then I hung up the phone and I said, see what happens.
I like that one. I think we've mentioned before where, Sam Bennett is not going to fit the Daryl Sutter image of what he wants his team to be. And he's the kind of guy that, old school kind of guy where it's like, going into the playoffs, I don't want this in the locker room.
AK, he doesn't try every night.
Yeah.
Yeah, not great. Not a great guy. You know what? By the way, as we talk about wingers and that, a guy no one's really talking about that everyone should keep an eye out for. He's having a bad year, but he scores 20 goals like it's nothing every year. Kyle Palmieri. I just wanted to mention that. Everyone's talking about like Forsberg and that. Palmieri. Same kind of situation as Chris Kreider. Will they re-sign him? Hopefully not, and we get some zest to the deadline. Okay, Daniel, when it comes to the Canucks, we're looking at Brandon Sutter, a depth defenseman who's probably going to be available. There's been interest. Apparently, the Oilers are in on him, but he makes a bit of money. Where do you see him going?
Yeah, so based on what Jim Benning gave him originally for that extension, that's going to nib them in the butt a bit, and they're just going to run out of time.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to try to be like, we'll retain salary, we'll get something, but teams will still balk at it saying, no, like we'll get this. And he's still going to try to get some format of an asset of it, but I think it's just not going to work out. And Brandon Sutter is just going to hit the free agency.
Mm-hmm. Alex, was it you who had the Hamonic deal, by the way?
Yeah, I did.
Okay. And that should be our last one here because Ottawa, we can get to Ottawa, but again, the Canucks are selling Virtanen, which we kind of covered earlier, and another asset they could do is Brandon Sutter. But yeah, Hamonic is also one, but he has some trade protection for some reason. But where do you see him?
Don't know. I have him going to the Winnipeg Jets, and to make some money work, I threw in Nathan Beaulieu and a 3rd or 4th round pick, whatever they want.
See, and the important thing that people may be asking here is, it feels like you guys have a lot of trades between Canadian teams as well. It makes more sense because of the quarantining rules.
Yeah.
It's a giant mess. And the reason we're doing our preview show now, as opposed to a little later, is because Canadian teams are probably going to want to get their deals done before the deadline if they do have to do the 2-week quarantine. So you got to keep your eye on that. And this could go just immediately out the window. And I'll just ask you guys, do you have anything when it comes to Derek Stepan deal? Obviously, I had mine in my wacky scenario, but it does mean that GMs have to get a little creative with using LTIR in a dead contract, which we don't see very often. But
I don't have a specific trade, but I do think he's going to be involved in a trade, maybe in a 3-way trade. You're looking at some of the guys who make more money. Let's say Taylor Hall, for example. I think Derek Stepan's contract can be used as LTIR money because so many teams and so many of the good teams are so close to the cap.
mm-hmm. Listen, the trade deadline is going to be very bad this year. Chances are. And what we want to do today is just prove to GMs there's a chance. You can do it. Make the moves. Do it.
Even if
Please.
it's 2 weeks prior, we
Yeah.
don't mind. We just want the content.